Hi, everyone. So here we are, the map of the old city. As you know, the citadel can be easily found by the Jaffa Gate. You have it over there. And it looks as something very simple just by the Jaffa Gate. However, today we're going to not only explore a little bit of what's left in the citadel within this Tower of David fortress. I will explain once again the name and everything, but we're going to also step outside of the territory of the fortress. We're going to go outside the walls and outside the fortress, and also we are going to have a short walk on the ramparts, on the walled city wall that goes from the Jaffa Gate a little bit alongside the Armenian border. As you know, as most of you know, I have already taken you around the walls of the old city. We have walked on the walls, on the ramparts. We've spent about 10 hours altogether all on the Temple Mount. So all those recordings are available. The Tower of David. Many people mistakenly believe that that tower over there is the Tower of David. No, this is the minaret of a mosque that was built. Well, this is the minaret from the Ottoman period, which once again it's the 16th century to 1917. And there had, for many years, there had been a mosque. This is true, but this is not the Tower of David. This is the Jaffa Gate. Well, this is the entrance to the old city through the Jaffa Gate, but you don't really see the gate here. You just see the open road because that section of the Jaffa of the wall was taken down by the Ottomans. So the Ottomans, on the one hand, in the map of the old city, the layout of the old city that you have just seen, this is also work of the Ottomans in 1530s. The Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent was in charge of the reconstruction of the old city walls. Yes, on the one hand. On the other hand, it was the Ottomans that also destroyed section of the Jaffa Gate to let the Kaiser of Germany, William II, enter the old city without having to get off the horse and just walk on foot, because there's no way he could do that. But the thing is that this Tower of David thing was meant to be there to actually protect the Jaffa Gate and also just to protect the old city of Jerusalem. So they basically destroyed a big part of the fortification of the old city. But the Ottomans believed that there was no really a big threat for them anymore. We are talking here 1899, right? And little did they know that less than 20 years, their empire would also collapse, and it would happen also um, by the Jaffa Gate as General Allenby entered the city on foot triumphantly before completely disregarding the Ottoman Empire. So this is the minaret. This is the minaret, but it is the tower, but it's not the Tower of David. The whole place has nothing to do with David, with biblical King David, because the city of David, as we know, is at a little different location, actually, to the south of the old city, and we are on the western side of the old city. All right, and this is the citadel. That's actually the way it looks. Its layout, so to speak, is from the Herod's times, which is the first century BCE, before Common Era. And actually, the entrance to the Museum of Tower of David is from the outside, not from the inside of the old city. But because it's important and relevant, we first need to go into the old city. So you see, this is the Jaffa Gate from the side of the city, from inside the city. And we need to walk just a little bit along the walls of the citadel. I want you to see the moat. I want you to actually see the Tower of David, because this is the Tower of David. And that minaret has nothing to do with it. So there had always been a fortress in this area, even way before Herod. Some archaeology, and we're going to speak about archaeology today as well, and we've been doing it for the previous three tours. The archaeology indicates 100%, it's totally solid, that there had always been a fortification to secure the old city, at least as early as the times of King Hezekiah, which is the 8th century BCE. So at least, which is not too far, let's say, from King David, just about 300 years apart, approximately. Yeah, but it has nothing to do with David. So no, David had nothing to do with that part of the city. His city was way outside of the modern old city. We know that, so we are not going there now. We are within the modern old city of Jerusalem. And then Herod built on the same territory his fortification, and it was more than just a citadel. Actually, he built a big complex and also a big palace with several hundreds of rooms. And as you can see, there is a big moat. The moat was for two reasons. First of all, the moat originally was not that deep, but because of the historical layers accumulating, obviously the ground level would naturally rise. But the moat was used for various purposes, and it was even accessible to just commoners multiple times. And all the other peoples, all the other armies that invaded Jerusalem and took over Jerusalem would be using the same site again to protect themselves from any other enemy that ever wanted to invade. That's basically it. And the Ottomans did the same. When the Ottomans came in 1517, they did the same. They also took over the fortress and they turned it into their big, well, it was a citadel, it was a big arsenal. There were prisons, and the entrance to the citadel will be from the old city because it was meant to be for the people inside Jerusalem, not for people coming from the outside, because those could be there could be enemies or anyone. So obviously this was the old entrance. The Tower of David, White Tower. So, David, I will explain once again very quickly. It's just a mistake. During the Byzantine period, when the pilgrims along the Jaffa Road saw from afar a minaret that the Ottomans built. So they saw the tower and they saw the old city walls and they thought that was Mount Zion and that was the Tower of David. And this name stuck. Nothing to do with David, but the tower. So they mistakenly thought that it was the minaret, but the tower is actually there were three towers built by Herod. And those towers just granted a perfect panoramic view of the city, of the territory outside of the city, making sure no enemy would come unnoticed. And they were quite right. They did a very good job. I mean, from here we can see Western Jerusalem, we can see the old city of Jerusalem, we can see everything, and we can see the citadel. So the citadel is huge, but it's only half of everything that Herod actually built on this land. We are going to explore it way outside of the premises of the Tower of David Museum. So actually, as I said, there were three towers. Now we have kind of 1.5 of what's left. So the three towers, fortifications, they were named after Herod's relatives, Herod's friends, and so it is believed that, the Phasael, or maybe it's the Hippicus, it's a good question. The historians are not 100% sure which, let's say, the remains of which towers we are looking at. And probably we will never know for sure, but at least we know that there were three of them. So Miriamne, Phasael, and Hippicus. And maybe it's not really that important, but they survived. And all the other nations, all the other armies will build on top of them. But you can still find, this is just a model of the Second Temple period you can find in Jerusalem by the Israel Museum. So you could see according to the descriptions that were left for us by the Jewish historian Josephus Flavius of the Roman period. So we could see, we at least have the description of the towers, how grand they were. And now it's either the Hippicus Tower or the Facile Tower that we can see the remains of. But these are the stones of either of the towers. These are the Herodian stones. They are still there. Nobody would completely eliminate what had been built before. It made no sense. So this is the actual Tower of David. And then everyone else would build just on top of those stones. And because this Tower of David, just like every corner of Jerusalem, is a filo pastry, archaeologists basically have to take layer after layer, and this is how they can easily read the timeline of Jerusalem. I mean, it's not that easy, but it's also easy because at least here everything is pretty much in order. And the reason why there are several layers within the citadel, within this fortress, is simply because archaeologists had to clear and take off the upper layer to get to the bottom of it. So we walked on the territory already. I'm not going to repeat myself because we have something else to discuss today, but you can always refer to the recordings and you will see that there you can just find the ruins from the Hezekiah period. We are talking like 700s, right, BCE, up to the Mandate period, actually. So just like that. And as I said, so this is the territory within the Tower of David. We have already walked the territory, but there is something outside of the territory of the citadel that I want to tell you about, and I want to take you outside of the citadel, outside of its walls. But we need to look at this over here. From the slit window, you can see the building. Quite unassuming, right? Just, it looks like this. And this building, well, the top of it, it was built during the Ottoman period and a bit also during the Mandate period. This was actually a prison. The Ottomans called it a kishle. Kishle actually means prison or a detention center. Usually it was combined with some sort of the police station. And during the Ottomans, that's what it was. And during the British period, during the Mandate period, it was also a prison where actually a lot of fighters for Zionists, but now this word is a very bad word, but it shouldn't be actually, because Zionism, I have to say it again. I'm sorry if it brushed it the wrong way, but it's simply were the people that wanted to go back to their ancestral homeland, but because there had been a lot of tensions between the British, between the Arabs, so a lot of people ended up in prison, and this was one of the prisons used by the British. But this Kishle actually is a lot more than just a police station or a prison. Because we need to go back to the Ottoman period again. I'm sorry, I'm just jumping from one epoch to another. I know it's really confusing. So once again, the Ottoman period from 1517 to 1917, very easy, 400 years, easy peasy. So the Ottomans used the fortress for whatever they needed, just like everyone else. And the Kishle was also used as a prison. So, but the entrance to the territory of the fortress, of the citadel and the Kishle would be from here, from the inside the city, over the moat, and which was also one of the means of protection. And now we are in the moat. So, because all these 3 tours, we were actually within the territory of the citadel. Now we are going along the walls of the citadel in the moat. So, moat is also accessible to public. It was always accessible, simply. For a long time, it was the only place that was accessible because the citadel was a strategic, entity, and commoners were not really allowed there. But now you can just roam there. It's Actually, it's really quiet there. You don't hear anything from the outside. It's just because of the difference in the elevation, the ground level. You don't really hear any noise. It's really quiet there. I love it. I absolutely love it. And everywhere you go, for example, this is, well, my Jewish friends will quickly recognize a mikveh there. So this is like a Jewish spiritual purification bath. There are several of them can be found on the territory. There can be found also the um, um, shall I put it, the niches for cisterns, for water tanks to collect the rainwater. And it just, again, you go up and down, and you see all these stones from different periods. I'm just zooming things because I want to save, some time for us. And you need to, yeah, it's not very friendly, in terms of like, it's not very accessible, but if you can do it, I highly recommend. So basically, in order to access Kishli, not only do you have to go outside of the walls of you need to go outside of the territory of the Tower of David. You actually need to walk one section, a small section of the old city walls, like you do a little ramparts walk in order to enter the Kishli. So it's not really part of the Tower of David Museum. It is, but geographically not exactly. But now it's their project as well. And this is the entrance. So a separate building. It's not, it hasn't been accessible for a long time, actually. So when I was there, it was 20, I don't know, 3 years ago, I think, something like that. And that's what it looks like. Okay, what's going on here? So you see these walls, you see a lot of gray walls, a lot of gray stones. What is going on here? And why is it on Earth that deep? It wasn't that deep, actually. The thing is that there was a floor there. You see the windows on the upper section, and then you see a little kind of a line, right, that goes all around the perimeter of the wall of the building, right? So this was actually the ground level. This was it. That was a floor. And what the archaeologists did, well, they started in the 20th century, and they actually wrapped up a few years ago only. They had to take down the floor, and they started digging and digging because they knew that it was totally impossible that the building only existed during the Ottoman and the British period. Obviously not. And they started digging, digging, and digging. And now here we are actually looking at almost 3,000 years of archaeology, a layer under a layer. This is just incredible. So you can see where the floor was, and then down below they would be taking one layer after another, and then they would just go up until they hit the bedrock, and they did, and they found the oldest thing they discovered were also the stones from the times of King Hezekiah. We have spoken about the findings and the stones from times of the Hezekiah on the territory of the citadel. And they also discovered that on the territory of the Kishli, of this prison. And then on top of Hezekiah levels, they also found the stones of the 2nd century BCE, that is before King Herod, and other stones. And then they saw that the stones from the 2nd century BCE, the so-called Hasmonean period, right? This is the period when the Jewish people fought against the Hellenistic influence. This is the sort of Hanukkah, the origins of the Hanukkah celebration. This is where it comes from. We have spoken about it before, so I'm skipping it now. And then they saw that those stones were actually destroyed and built upon. And you see these trenches, these are actually drainage channels. For drainage canals that were used for Herod. So when Herod built that citadel, he didn't build it on the virgin, absolutely empty land. Obviously not. So this place had always been a very strategic location to protect the city from all around. And Herod not only built here a citadel to grant security to Jerusalem, he also built himself a gigantic palace and these drainage channels. So since we are outside of the citadel, these canals. I keep making the same mistake again and again. So these drainage canals were actually part of his palace already. That's incredible. So whenever you see these regular stones, know that they are from times of King Herod. They could be of smaller size, but they should have very regular size, very regular shapes, rectangular with a very distinct cut. You can see them there. And we are, I don't know, 4 floors down of, lower than the original floor was. I don't know. I lost count, but we are talking here thousands of years. So Herod is in the first century BCE, right? And then uh, this is bedrock. This is bedrock over there. I don't really know how deep this is actually. And so when I was there, and it was shortly before Kishle closed down for big revamping. So they gonna be building, ceiling glass floors for everyone to walk around and just see everything, underneath their feet. But they had this very temporary exhibition, also like showing you the layers of history, and also I don't really have any other photo because I didn't see it. I only see the photo from the times on the upper section because you cannot walk there, you cannot see it, but they were left the prisoners. So the officers who were and the Jewish people who were caught by the British and placed at the prison, they left graffitis on the walls, so you could also see that. But it's high above. I didn't see it. Well, they just showed it, but I don't really have any better photograph. And this is the photograph from the Mandate period, from the Mandate period prison. So you see, this just is crazy. And then on top of Herodian Palace, um, there would be other constructions built. And it is believed that the walls were extended by the Crusaders, which came in 1099, and then the Ottomans built on top of the Crusader walls, and now we have what we have. Insane, absolutely insane. So it's not only do we have the fortification archaeology, but also Herodian Palace archaeology. But it's actually way more than that. But we need to leave Kishle and we need to move elsewhere to understand the scale of the findings and what actually is going on here. So a lot of photographs that I'm using, at least to add to our understanding of this multiple layers, and you need a guidance there. You need an archaeologist to be able to tell you, okay, these stones are from this period, these stones are from this period. This is the photograph from the website of the Israel Antiquities Authorities. It's from maybe a year or even less than a year ago. They're still conducting excavations there on the lower levels. They're still doing it. They still keep finding things. And there's one thing I want to connect it to. So remember in the previous episode, we will revisit this room. Don't worry. I will jog your memory. So in one of the rooms of the museum, we saw the findings from the times of the siege of Jerusalem during this Maccabean Wars, right? We're talking second century BCE. So Jerusalem was besieged, and there was a severe onslaught on the old city. And well, battles are described in the Old Testament, well, archaeologists try to find, proof to that. They try to find something, physical that could be just other than the Bible, and they found it there. They found it. So we spoke about this Hasmonean period, 2nd century BCE. That's the wall we saw as we walked on the territory of the citadel, within the citadel. And we spoke about this very big attack on Jerusalem at that period. And on the territory of the citadel. And outside of the territory of the citadel, they found a lot of these ballista stones. They found the projectiles and the spears of the arrows that were clearly inflicted by Antiochus the seventh of the Sidates. The representative of the Seleucids, of the Hellenes, right? That attacked Jerusalem. And and we could see them on display. So this is this remarkable thing that archaeology does in the Holy Land. They just keep finding this extra biblical proof for the events described in the Old Testament. Archaeologists in Israel do not treat the Old Testament or the New Testament as a history book, but they just keep finding things. They just keep finding things. It's the in international groups of archaeologists, especially when it gets to like really sensitive topics. We are outside of the Kishle. I haven't been there for 3 years, and this place is not really accessible all the time. This visit has to be arranged, and probably now it's not even available. So I haven't been there for 3 years. I don't know if they have built this glass floor. If they have, it's amazing. And next time I go to Jerusalem, I'm going to check it. So hopefully this November, we'll see. But so remember, I told you, but there is a lot more to this archaeology, and there's more than just relevance, well, to the Jewish people. It's more than that. It's way more than that. So we are now on the section of the ramparts. So that's the minaret of the mosque, and we already have been inside the room where the mosque used to be. And the mosque was not established by the Ottomans. The mosque was established by the Mamluks. That the warriors that ousted the Crusaders, and also the Ayyubids. So they took over the citadel, they built the mosque, and then the Ottomans would build their mosque in the same room. So after they kicked out the Mamluks in the 1517. Anyway, so we are now walking on that section of the wall. So we are on the western section, moving towards the south. Again, these walls are from the Ottoman period, but obviously they're not built on the virgin land, on an empty spot. No, definitely not the case. So we let's just have a look again. This is the territory of the citadel. Just the citadel. We walked within the walls, we walked in the moat. You can see the moat, right? And we now walking on the ramparts, on this brown line that goes all the way down, like 6 o'clock. But this is not everything that had been there. We are now moving towards the Armenian quarter. And the thing is that a big part of the Armenian quarter in that section actually now lies on the territory of the former palace of King Herod. 1st century BCE, that's the citadel. It's big, but it's only probably a smaller half of everything that had been constructed there. But again, to talk about it, we need to go outside. So from here, we are moving and we are going towards the Armenian quarter, towards the southern end of the old city. You see this wall. This is the wall of the Kishle already. So you can see the Armenian quarter, you can see the citadel. So we are moving towards the south. And here is something we need to talk about. This is a big connection with the tours that I did a long time ago. I've done many tours. The Temple Mount, Via Dolorosa, the sites that Jesus visited, the site where Jesus was, and different sites related to the place of crucifixion and burial, and, these things. So we know of that. Well, the Temple Mount, you can see it here on the map, and we know of a certain palace that King Herod had. And we also know that that Pontius Pilate, the one who judged Jesus, he used the palace that had been built by Herod, because Pontius Pilate didn't have his palace in Jerusalem. He had his palace in Caesarea, and there was found a stone with the name of Pontius Pilate just several decades ago. And before that, the world had zero evidence of the existence of Pontius Pilate. Just imagine the goosebumps everyone had when they discovered the stone. And you can see the copy of the stone in Caesarea, and I did show it to you when we visited. You can also find the original stone in Israel Museum in Jerusalem. This gives me goosebumps. But Pontius Pilate didn't have a palace in Jerusalem. And since there were just several years between Herod and Pontius Pilate, so it makes sense that the Pontius Pilate and the Romans would be using something that had already been there, which could only have been a Herodian construction. So let's say, and there are two theories. So it's either the Antonia fortress, which is on the northern edge of the Temple Mount. You see Antonia, little square thing. Or you see the Herod's palace to the west, a much bigger territory with the fortification over there. And neither the author of the New Testament nor Josephus Flavius bothered to explain to us where this praetorium, the place of judgment, actually was. And we, humans, are now trying to figure out whether it was the Antonia, or which had been also built by Herod, but it had been built before the big palace, or it's actually the Herod's palace. Because just imagine how this prosecutor of the mighty Roman Empire could be staying in a small fortress if he had the whole palace to himself with hundreds of rooms. I honestly don't know what to think, but there are two theories. They are equally strong, and I'm not going to tell you which theory I gravitate to, but a lot of specialists, a lot of scholars, historians, archaeologists are now inclined to believe that given the findings that have been made over the course of the past several decades, many are actually inclined to think that maybe it was not the Antonia fortress, but here by Herod's palace, by the western wall of the old city, not the Temple Mount, by the old city, that the place of judgment of Jesus was. We're still on the ramparts, and from these ramparts, if you just look down below, you will see this. I did take you here about a year ago. So it's not something completely new for everyone, but I don't expect you to remember a lot of things. And again, with my tours, I don't want to overload you with information, but I want to help you connect the dots. Oh, how freakingly insane the couple of stones can be. The meaning, the meaning of the findings. So you see there clearly a construction, something clearly intended, and it looks like, I don't know. So what actually many believe now, that this is the place of the so-called Gabbatha, the elevated space. Well, that was mentioned in the Gospel of John, right, as the place of judgment of Jesus before the crucifixion. So let's just see the quote. When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat at a place known as the stone pavement. And we know that they were in and out of the old city, in and out of the city, in and out of the city. And well, let's say the distance between the place of judgment and the place of crucifixion is actually the same. The old city is tiny anyway, so everything fits to both theories. Let's see what this theory has. Look at this. It it clearly looks like an entrance, like a gate, right? And well, anyone can walk it. It's not even within the old city. It's just the western West Jerusalem, and it was discovered actually quite long ago. Look at all these excavations carried out after obviously the 6 Day War. I mean, look at this. There was very high, a lot of land, ground, a lot of soil that had to be in rubble and stones. They had to be carried away to actually get to the bottom of it. And it was discovered. So there was the entrance. We can see that, right? And then we will see the stone pavement. And many are now inclined to believe that this could have been actually this Gabbatha, the place of judgment. And we will see the elevation as well. We will see that. You see, it goes up. There are some stones, there are some steps that were intended. And the stones there look very Herodian. So everything fits. Everything fits the timeline. Everything fits the archaeology. Who knows? Well, that's just what I wanted to tell you about. And that's not all. So it's still the territory of the palace of Herod. We're going on the walls. Behind this wall, you can see a pretty big round-shaped building, a bit pointy, right, on top. So this is the Dormition Abbey, German Catholic church that we visited with you. It's technically, that's Mount Zion over there. It's right outside of the old city itself. Just through the Zion Gate, you turn around the corner, and voila, you're there by the Dormition Abbey. We're still walking on the western section of the ramparts, and what you see over there, right? So this is a big parking lot. So between the wall of a Kishle and how shall I put it? So, and up until the end of the old city limits, right? So there is a territory of the Armenian Quarter, and there is a big parking lot, a very convenient parking lot, the very good one. But well, I wouldn't take a car to the old city anyway. You can see how tiny the old city is. From there you can immediately see already the Temple Mount. You can see the Dome of the Rock, and this would be the end of the old city. Just that, like, it's insane. It's so small, and the territory of the parking, and it's highly likely that this very nice and green, fresh green lawn. These are all parts of Herodian Palace. We're talking here hundreds of rooms. In some sources, they claim they were up to 600 rooms in Herodian Palace. Had I been Pontius, but okay, if I were Pontius Pilate, I would definitely go for the big palace. Why would I need this Antonia fortress? And plus, the Antonia fortress on the northern edge of the Temple Mount. I mean, this is the highest point, which actually was the weakest point from the north. The old city was the weakest. That's why the small palace the small fortress was constructed there. But it was small, where they had like 600 rooms with jacuzzi, I believe, private pool, I believe, and many other things, I believe. So, like, why would I need to go to this Antonia fortress? I don't know. Anyway, so this is it doesn't look the same anymore. I found this photo online. I haven't seen it myself, but there was a very short period of time when they were conducting some works at this parking lot, and this parking lot is now in the Armenian Quarter. There is a big scandal, and that's Armenian Church, well, Armenian administration of the Armenian Quarter and the Armenian Church are involved, and the state of Israel are involved, and there's a big dispute. It's all just, the territorial thing, and we'll see what's going to come of it. But there's a big lawsuit, but it's not about the lawsuit. It's about archaeology here. So they were conducted. Well, there was some repair works, and there was discovered this thing. So this place is known as the Cow's Field. During the Ottoman period and also during the Mamluk period, it was used as the place for the cattle to graze, just that. And they discovered the mosaics, huge pieces of mosaic that actually would go all the way under the parking lot. And this again speaks in favor of the theory that Herodian Palace lasted and probably went to the very end, to the very, very end of the old city walls. Who knows? But definitely on the territory of the fortress, of the parking lot, that's definitely the case. Definitely, 100%. Now, so we have you see the Armenian flags. So this is the Armenian Quarter. And if you just go a little bit backwards, like straight ahead, you will find yourself by the Jaffa Gate. And this is like the half of the western section of the old city. Just this, super simple. Yeah, okay, but we need to go on. So, but with what we have just seen, it's way more than just findings from almost 3,000 years ago. It's something that completely changes our understanding of the geography and also our understanding of the events that had taken place here. So this is actually this elevated space. Well, the possible praetorium. There were steps, there were seats found. Possible, really possible. Well, anyway, we move on, and we need to go back to the Tower of David. So now we understand that the findings and the place of the Tower of David is more than just a fortification, and it was more than just a Herodian palace. This place got a very different, let's say, level of importance because of the events that happened during times of Jesus and happened around Jesus. So now the parking lot is extended, as you can see. But we move on. So we go on, and we need to go back to the Tower of David. We still have, back to the citadel. And we still have just basically 2 rooms to visit. They're not really about archaeology, but they are about the importance of the Tower of David for the people. Again, this is the misconception from the 6th century Common Era, from the Byzantine period. Exactly at that period, the Christian pilgrimage started to the Holy Land, and exactly at that time, the Temple Mount was completely forgotten and probably used as a big dump, or maybe there was nothing there at all going on. But this name stuck. And the Tower of David, this name stuck even with the Jewish pilgrims, and also with the Jewish olives, right? With the people who, starting from the 19th century, started coming to the Holy Land, either as pilgrims or as the new settlers. And we know that during the Ottomans in the second half of the 19th century, starting from like 1960 and 1860s, so the purchase of land by different communities was possible. And this is when, in 1882, the first wave of the new immigrants, of the so-called alims, right, started. And for many, this tower, it would still be the Tower of David that people would see, because still most of the travelers, pilgrims, new settlers would arrive from the sea, from Jaffa. They would take the Jaffa Road, and this is what they would see. So for them, the Tower of David, even if the name was wrong, they couldn't care less. So for them, it was the symbol. It was the symbol of this land that had been dreaming, that had been longing to see. So obviously, it also became a very big commercial tool, a marketing tool. So they were board games, they were souvenirs, there were coloring books, foods, everything, well, with this Tower of David. So it became a very big, like a, it was a logo of the future Jewish state. It also was important for Christian pilgrims. For them, it was the symbol of the Holy Land. And they would also not, well, because they didn't know much at that point. So for them, it would be something that connected them to the very, well, to the very core of their religion. Because for Christianity, the events of the temple of the Old Testament are just equally important. So a lot of merchandise, souvenirs, belt buckles, rings, pins, and yeah, also of course the challah covers for Shabbat. A lot of items were made. So the well, I love this. It's not a towel. I'm not even sure what this is. A little rug with with Herzl, who was the great visionary, well, of the future, state of Israel, and looking at the Tower of David as the symbol of the new hope and the soon revival of the Jewish state. I love it. And this is the challah covers with also the Tower of David on it. So Tower of David also became a big logo, an important symbol for Jerusalem in the modern era. And there is something else I want to take you to. It's a room that not so many people actually go to because people get overwhelmed, like probably we are now. And it's also a lot of walking. It is a lot of walking. And even I wasn't able to film everything in one go. There's no way I would have been able to do this. So, I mean, look at all these different levels. And also it's on the territory, within the territory of the fortress. Like this, it's a lot of walking. Plus it's hot. So yeah, no. But it's good in those rooms. They are all air conditioned and this is really good. Okay, what is going on here? So the room is called, and this is the last thing, and I hope I won't need to overrun. So this is the room. This room is called Jerusalem Bird's Eye View, 19th century. So we're looking at the model of Jerusalem, 19th century, created by this man, Stephen Illes, a Hungarian Catholic pilgrim who actually was a bookbinder. He was one of those thousands of pilgrims in the 19th century who first saw the Tower of David, and it's just that image stuck in his head. He created this model in the 19th century. We're talking 1860. 1864, 1875, that's written here. So, and this is his handwriting describing the model. So Stephen Illes. He stayed in Jerusalem and he worked as a bookbinder. He worked. He started creating, models and souvenirs, and he worked under the guidance of Konrad Schick, who eventually became the chief archaeologist and architect of Jerusalem for a short period of time in the 19th century, end of the 19th century. I have mentioned Konrad Schick multiple times on my tours, and he created this model for the Vienna exhibition. And this model was exhibited there, and it was highly acclaimed. It's big, pretty accurate. There's one thing I was told by one of my colleagues who gave us a tour once there for one of the Ishtaimuyot. Oh goodness, one of the advanced courses for tour guides. We were told that the walls of the old city, and especially the walls of the Temple Mount, were a little bit exaggerated compared to the rest. I'm sure you can recognize the Dome of the Rock and the Alexa Mosque over there. Um, so the how shall I put it? They were exaggerated on purpose just to show the greatness of these sites compared to the rest of the old city. And then this model just traveled from one place to another, and then it was lost. As it later on, actually about 10 years ago, only just 10 years ago, this model, no, it was maybe about 30 years ago, this model was discovered in the attics in the library in Switzerland. So it was bought by a university in Geneva, and this model was just placed in the attic somewhere in the library, and it was discovered almost by chance by one of the people who worked for the Tower of David Museum was at a conference in Geneva, and they had to pull some strings, but because there was some information, that this model could have been purchased and that could have been kept in Geneva, but that was still, much to speculation. So eventually the model was found, and now it's on a permanent loan. It was not purchased by Jerusalem. It wasn't purchased by the museum. It's on a permanent loan. Well, maybe they will buy it at some point. I have no idea, but I don't think that Switzerland really intends to sell it. But this is it. So it's a citadel, but it's more than just a citadel. It has nothing to do with David. It's even the wrong tower. But the importance, the significance, and the relevance of this place is just immense. I hope you're still with me. I'm getting back to the chat. Give me a second. Okay, the chat is open. Let me know if you have any questions. Whew. Okay. Hold on a second. There's something. Yeah. Okay. And hi to those who joined us a little after we started. Good to see you. It's good to see that we have a little more people with us. As I said, next time I'm planning to brush the dust off. Dust from the stones and sand of the Tower of David, and we're going to Tel Aviv to the Museum of Chaim Bialik. Thank you, Sharon. I'm glad you found it interesting. Thank you so much. Just for one weekend, we're going to be in Tel Aviv. I might take you also to another museum in Tel Aviv of Nahum Gutman, just a really nice artist, 20th century. Actually, the first and second half of the 20th century. We'll see. I can't really do without Jerusalem for a long time, and I love archaeology, but we'll see. So anyway, if you have any questions, I'm still here to anticipate in them. But just in case, so I have some tours already scheduled for the upcoming weekend. So for today, in 30 minutes from now, Rimsky-Korsakov Museum and Apartment. Right, then next weekend, I'm taking you to my stomping ground, the Bolshoi Avenue of St. Petersburg, and we're visiting another very small museum of the history of photography to see and talk about what the photo studios, what the photo shoots looked like in the 19th century, to get introduced to some photographers, like really, photographers of the Romanovs, for example, and just, ordinary people. So we'll talk about that and the art of photography that was born almost immediately. And then I'm taking you to the Grand Choral Synagogue of St. Petersburg next weekend. Also another tour that might really be interesting for some of you. And so Sunday, Chaim Bialik House and Museum. That's so far what has been scheduled. Thank you, Cindy. I'm glad you found it informative and interesting. Thank you, Natasha. It is really incredible heritage, relevant for all of us, regardless of really what we believe in. This is just the cradle of the three monotheistic religions. And even if we are not believers, these are like the really pillars of the community, of the humanity that we have. So very important. And we actually have this extra biblical proof This is insane. This is insane. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you for your support. If you wish to thank me for my tours, there is always a way to do it. You can send a PayPal donation. You could buy me a coffee. A big thank you to my sponsors who have been supporting me. Outside of the tipping, is just this monthly payment. It really means a lot to me. And well, there are more than 1,000 videos now, and all these 10 tours of the Temple Mount, and all these tours of the Via della Rosa, and a more detailed understanding of the Antonia fortress. So if you have trouble, locating some of the tours, just reach out to me. I'll help you with the links, because I know 1,000 videos is like a really big YouTube playlist. So Marilyn is saying, thank you. Another interesting one. I see. I see. Not an issue. Well, Marilyn, the next tour about the Rimsky-Korsakov Museum is going to be for virtual tours, and I don't really have any control over the recordings, but hopefully it will be available tomorrow for 3 days, the recording of the Rimsky-Korsakov Museum. It should be available. Yes, and if you have trouble finding the recording, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll try to locate it for you. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been fun. Whew, it's been, challenging. It's always challenging. Thank you, Dorley. Good to see you. Thank you for everything, and I'll see at least some of you in Rimsky-Korsakov Museum in St. Petersburg, and we are even going to watch some operas. Bye-bye.